After the most recent episode of Attack on Titan, I realized something. Annie Leonhart could be the smartest character currently alive in Attack on Titan. And while she's been absent throughout most of the series, Annie has shockingly a great track record of really smart and logical decisions. Then, when you consider the woman is kinda just 15 years old, you start to wonder, just what kind of education was Mr. Leonhart giving Annie? So let's get into it, and let's ask the question, is Annie Leonhart the smartest character in Attack on Titan? Guys, we are nearing 1,500 followers on Twitter, which means we're only 500 followers away from an Attack on Titan themed giveaway. If this is something you're interested in, then please follow me at SeaTactics on Twitter. I post all kinds of stuff there like news, my thoughts on current topics in anime, and it's also just a fantastic way to have a conversation with me outside of YouTube. Plus, soon I will be announcing what will be in the AOT giveaway over on Twitter. So, let's get back to the video. Annie's character is one of the most unique in Attack on Titan, as a lot of who she is and how she came to be requires an understanding of her backstory and childhood. This is unique because many characters in AOT don't get such a unique backstory as hers. Born as an illegitimate baby as her mother slept with an Eldian man, she was left at the gates of an internment zone where Mr. Leonhart found her and raised her. This was not out of pity, but because Mr. Leonhart wanted to raise her as a warrior candidate to get preferential treatment by Marley to live a better life. So, growing up, Annie was taught everything that Mr. Leonhart knew and became a girl who existed for the sole purpose of high-efficiency fighting and killing. Annie became a warrior. Though things changed for Annie when she finally became a Titan shifter and inherited the female Titan. Not only was she able to beat her old man as his health deteriorated, but now she had no purpose in life other than that to kill and fight. Mr. Leonhart had never taught her such things that normal people would need to survive, so she became cold and hardened, empty. This translates over into Annie's personality, with her face often sporting no expressions, leaving a cold demeanor, almost in a way amplified by her beauty. Compounded with that is her tendency to always be quiet and alone, something which is synonymous with Annie's character, as she doesn't even seem to fit in with her fellow Titan shifters. Though it seems she doesn't entirely hate the isolation she puts herself through, as she often makes no effort to correct this way of living. Though while Annie may be somewhat apathetic and a loner, the idea that Annie is anything less than an absolute baddie is unfounded. Annie has a strong sense of pragmaticism, and quite often her lack of personality and care for herself leads to many situations where she can detach her feelings and look at things from a more neutral point of view. This is expressed in her character quite often and is a major factor in her most important motivation, to return to her father. Due to this goal, she wants to find the most efficient and least careless way to carry out her duties. She's responsible and smart. Even for her youth, she realizes how important a plan is and how important it is to not be careless and reckless. This is also rather humorous when you consider Annie doesn't often care for herself as much as she probably should. She devotes herself to one cause, and that's it for her, almost in a way becoming a pseudo one-trick pony. This is a major factor in trying to understand Annie and how she ticks and parses information. In other words, Annie is really the ultimate neutral character in Attack on Titan. She has no allegiances or alliances. She only has one motivation, and that's to return to her father, full stop. So let's evaluate the major decision-making moments that I think show Annie being really incredibly smart. The first hint of smart thinking from Annie is simple, yet a key moment when Marcel is eaten by Ymir and she expresses to Reiner how they should return to Marley with Ymir and forego the mission. Annie was right, because the mission was compromised to an extent where, without the Jaw Titan, their mission only became harder and more convoluted, but also higher stakes. Reiner, on the other hand, wanted to go forward with a new plan to infiltrate Paradis and flush out the Founding Titan that way. This was a reckless move on Reiner's part, as if found out, which they eventually were, it could have possibly led to the capture of the Jaw, Colossal, Female, and Armor Titans in one fell swoop. Annie did not for a second underestimate the possibility of their enemy capturing them, and it's because of Annie's pragmatic nature and practical thinking which allows her to see these possible outcomes and decide that from a logical viewpoint, they should leave Paradis and return to Marley for the time being. Instead, Annie is choked out by Reiner and forced to continue the mission down one man. Annie 1, Reiner 0. When Annie spies on Kenny Ackerman and gets caught, forcing herself to flee, this is brought up in a meeting where she thinks her face was caught and her identity is out there, comprising the mission. Once again, Annie makes a logical argument that they should return to Marley as they have already figured out quite a bit. Keep in mind as well, Annie was the person who was in charge of keeping the mission afloat, as Ymir, Reiner, and whatever the hell this thing is, were in charge of simply living a normal life as cadets. So Annie knew pretty much everything. She figured out that the Church of the Walls was keeping a close eye on Krista Linz. She infiltrated Kenny Ackerman, and as well figured out that the King of the Walls was just a puppet ruler controlled by some other unknown entity. Knowing this, Annie, using her pragmaticism, made the right decision to tell Reiner that the best choice, knowing everything, is to call off the mission and return to Marley. Dissatisfied with her answer, and basically believing that Marley would not be satisfied with their progress, he decides to go forth with a new mission. Reiner and Berthold will once again attack, though Annie points out that by going forth with this plan, they will be killing their friends. This is an example once again of how Reiner is still brainwashed, as he calls his friends brainwashed devils and ignores Annie once more. The plan obviously fails once again, as they're not able to flush out the founding Titan while Annie is off advancing her rank in the military. While I've certainly talked about much of the mistakes of Reiner's character in this video, Annie's character highlights how unprepared Reiner is for the role of the Armor Titan. As well, it shows how brilliant of a tactician Annie is, and in this sense is the Armin equivalent for Marley in a couple ways. Annie 2, Reiner 0. When it comes to Marco's murder, what I find the most interesting is how Reiner expresses to Annie to be the one to take off Marco's gear, even though she wants Berthold to do it. He did this to punish Annie for saving Connie from death and for being weak. This does two things for Annie's character, as she comes off as sympathetic here ultimately. This reveals that Annie saving Connie means she's at the heart of it, not an entirely bad person. As well, her reluctantness in trying to get out of tying up Marco and her traumatized face shows that Annie before this moment wasn't exactly the cold-hearted killer we had seen in season 1. She feels more of a victim of circumstance and poor leadership, which for Reiner's character is something that cannot be understated. Reiner is a very bad leader, and no matter which way you slice it, led the mission very poorly by making Annie the person who did everything, while Reiner and the Thing set back. Just imagining the amount of stress on Annie's shoulders to carry out this mission successfully and even succeed in the majority of it shows her brilliance while highlighting Reiner's weakness. Annie is later even seen out of guilt apologizing to the corpse of Ruth Klein among others. Annie 3, Reiner 0. Though interestingly enough, with Annie's long-awaited return, she is reunited with Hitch, and we see yet another smart play from Annie here. While being easily failed by Hitch because of Annie's weakened state, she threatens Hitch that she could turn into a Titan even in her state, asking if she really wants to take that risk. Even now, we don't know if Annie was bluffing or not, but that's not the point. Annie was smart enough to use Hitch's knowledge of Titan shifters and what Annie's female Titan has already done and how deadly she is to convince Hitch to give her what she wants. Annie 4, Reiner 0. Hitch, marry me! As well, in the conversation around the campfire, Annie is able to defuse Mikasa when she brings up a good point by asking if they're able to go through with the possibility of killing Eren Yeager. This needs to be said as Mikasa is steadfast in her love and adoration for Eren. But by suggesting that Mikasa only lives for Eren, that in itself suggests to her that killing Eren means Mikasa should die as well, sending her into a rage. Annie defuses it by simply saying she's on her side, which calms her down. Annie once again shows her pragmatic nature in bringing up the obvious elephant in the room, and as well, Mikasa proving Annie's worries about her right shows Annie is, well, she's a brilliant mind. Also, being able to come a scorned Mikasa is probably not easy. Yet Annie can do it. Let's be real. Mikasa was enamored with the nose. Annie 5. Reiner 0. While there are certainly more examples that I can point to that shows how smart Annie Leonhart is, I think these core examples are the most important to illustrate a very simple picture. Annie is possibly Attack on Titan's most smartest and tactical character outside of maybe someone like Erwin or Armin. She shows a brilliant tactical prowess, can read people very well, and even shoulders the burden of an entire mission to retake the Founding Titan for years at a time. Annie is a superwoman in that regard. She's incredible in every sense of the word. And while I certainly think there are aspects of her personality that are undesirable, like her countless killings, she is still someone I think that has many admirable traits. She doesn't react emotionally, but with calculation after determination from intel. And at the very least, I think Annie's character serves to highlight the shortcomings of Reiner Braun and how poorly he handles nearly every situation which calls for his leadership. Annie was dealt a bad hand in life, but she made the absolute best out of every situation and was only failed by poor leadership. I can only imagine how Miss Annie Leonhart could have flourished under the freedom of the Survey Corps. I mean, just imagining such a timeline brings so many questions. Annie 6, Reiner 0. If you enjoyed this video, check out my video on what would happen if a male becomes the female Titan, and my most recent video on 86 if you enjoy it. Go, watch it now. What are you doing?